The code story in a nutshell. Dr. Aris Thorne, a disgraced astrophysicist, and Dr. Chen, a brilliant linguist, follow a cryptic signal from the Peruvian Andes. Their discovery is the entrance to Xylos, the silent, subterranean city of the Aetherians, an ancient civilization that mastered dimensional travel. The city is governed by the code of the Aetherians, a set of rules based on harmonic alignment and a core of powerful, stable energy known as the axis. Aris and Mia quickly realize the code is not a roadmap to power, but a complex warning label left after the Aetherians destroyed themselves in a catastrophe called the Sundering, caused by their own lust for control. Their mission to protect the code is interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Elias Kale, Aris's former ruthless colleague who seeks to weaponize the etheric energy. Kale steals the Axis crystals and forces Mia to open the Nexus Gate, the entrance to the Aetherians' ultimate sanctuary. In the final confrontation, Aris and Mia discovered the ultimate truth of the code. Mastery requires release. Rule 3. Using this paradoxical rule, Mia activates the city's self-regulating defense, triggering a localized sundering that instantly warps Kale to an unknown dimension. Triumphant, Aris and Mia make the final, crucial choice. They seal the city, becoming the code's silent guardians, choosing restraint over power. Ancient civilizations, lost secrets, and a power that could shatter reality. Get ready to plunge into the forgotten depths of the Peruvian Andes, where Dr. Aris Thorne and Dr. Chen discover the code of the Aetherians. This isn't just a story about history. It's about the thin line between mastery and madness. Will they unlock a new dimension or doom our own? If you love archaeological thrillers, cosmic mysteries, and stories where the greatest power is the choice not to use it, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the unknown. Let us know in the comments, what would you do with the code?
The high-altitude wind of the Peruvian Altiplano bit at Dr. Aris Thorne's exposed hands, but his focus was absolute. He wasn't staring at the cracked mud bricks of the Wari ruin before him, but at the digital readout on his custom-built device, the Harmonic Resonance Detector. Aris, a disgraced astrophysicist now working as a fringe archaeologist, believed the great ancient structures of the world were not just temples, but harmonic antennae. He was looking for a pattern that shouldn't exist, a consistent, non-random, geometric energy signature. For 3 years, the HRD had registered only noise, until today. The device began to scream, not with a chaotic static, but a pure, escalating tone. The display showed a complex 12-point waveform, stable and repeating. "Mia, look at this!" Aris whispered into his radio, his voice strained with awe and disbelief. Dr. Chen, a brilliant linguist specializing in Andean quipu, knotted strings used for record-keeping, rushed over. She wore a heavy alpaca shawl, but her eyes, usually sharp with skeptical intelligence, were wide. "What is that frequency?" she asked, her voice tight. "It's too structured." "It's a delta wave frequency modulated by a prime harmonic sequence," Aris breathed, running a hand through his perpetually messy hair. "It's a signal, a message, not to us, but from somewhere." He pointed to the ruin's oldest feature, a slab of granite carved with precise, unnerving symmetry, almost alien. Next to it, Mia had been studying a recently unearthed quipu made of what looked like braided gold fibers. "The resonance is centered on this slab," Aris said, adjusting the HRD's sensor cone. "But the sequence, it correlates perfectly with the quipu's knot placement. Look at the ratios." Mia held the golden quipu next to the HRD's screen. The knots weren't merely numbers, they described positions. The distance between the knots matched the frequency ratios on the screen. It's not a record of a harvest, Aris, Mia concluded, her breath catching. The quipu is a key, and the slab is the lock. As they spoke, the ground beneath their feet trembled, not with the deep rumble of an earthquake, but with a high-pitched, vibrating hum. The air grew thick, shimmering faintly. Aris slammed his hand onto the slab, pushing it where the HRD indicated a central nexus of energy. A deep, mechanical funk echoed, followed by a rush of air scented with ozone and mineral dust. The slab of granite slid aside, revealing a shaft of impossibly smooth, jet-black stone dropping into the darkness. A faint cyan light pulsed from the depths. "The Aetherians," Aris whispered, the name of the mythological lost race of star-seers he had chased his entire life. "The code is a mechanism. It's a way to open the door." "Aris," Mia said, backing away slightly, her pragmatism fighting her wonder. "If this is real, we need to call someone." "No," Aris snapped, instantly regretting the intensity. "Not yet. The world will bury this under concrete or turn it into a weapon. We have to see what the code truly is first. We go in now, together." He grabbed 2 emergency lamps and a coil of rope. Looking down the shaft, he could feel a pull, a sense of falling not just through space, but through time and understanding. Mia looked at the open abyss, then at the golden quipu in her hand, which was now vibrating slightly, mirroring the sound of the depths. The quipu felt heavy, important. It was a rule, a signal waiting to be read. She nodded, her face set with a mixture of fear and determination. "Fine, but we treat this not as a treasure hunt, but as a translation project. I need to understand their signals." Aris smiled, the first genuine, unburdened smile in years. "Let's go find the code of the Aetherians."
The descent. Aris and Mia descend the perfectly smooth shaft, which requires specialized magnetic climbing boots they find near the entrance. They realize the Aetherians used gravimetric manipulation, not stairs. The city of Xylos. They arrive in an enormous, silent, subterranean city, Xylos. The structures are composed of a glowing, translucent material that pulses with light derived from a central, non-combustible energy source. There are no doors, only transition points, marked by a specific pattern of 3 symbols. The first rule. They discover the first major realization. The code isn't a language of letters, but a set of physical laws. Each transition point requires a specific, simple geometric alignment and a low-frequency hum, which Mia replicates by humming or by using an activated piece of the golden quipu. Rule 1. Harmonic alignment is key. Movement is controlled by resonant frequency and geometric position. The Watcher. They encounter a deactivated sentinel or drone, a semi-organic automaton. It reactivates partially, emitting a warning in an archaic binary code that Aris eventually deciphers. The axis must not be broken. The Journal or Archive. They find a central archive room containing crystalline data spheres. Aris finds a visual history of the Aetherians, their rise, their mastery of etheric fields, the manipulation of dark matter or energy, and the terrifying reason for their disappearance. The reason for the vanishing. The Aetherians didn't die out, they fragmented. They attempted to stabilize a local pocket of reality to create a permanent, perfect sanctuary, the Nexus. The code was the blueprint for this stabilization. However, a dissident group, fearing stagnation, tried to break the code, believing true evolution lay in chaotic, uncontrolled etheric travel. This led to a catastrophic sundering, splintering the civilization across untold dimensions. The main city, Xylos, was abandoned to become a massive, self-sustaining guardian station. The second rule. Mia discovers the crucial second element. The placement of certain crystals in Xylos dictates the axis of stability, the anchor point for the entire dimension. If these crystals are moved, the nexus collapses. Rule 2. The axis must be protected. Stability is maintained by a fixed energy matrix. The antagonist. They are ambushed by a mercenary group led by the ruthless and brilliant Dr. Elias Kale, a former colleague of Aris's who has been tracking Aris's fringe theories. Kale wants the code not to understand, but to weaponize the etheric energy for power and control. The chase. Kale's team captures Mia, believing her golden quipu is the master key. Aris must use his knowledge of the code's rules to navigate the city, turning its defense mechanisms and gravimetric shifts against Kale's team. The Ente's Gate. Aris finds the final gate, a massive aperture glowing with every color of the spectrum, the entrance to the Nexus, the Aetherian sanctuary. Kale forces Mia to activate the gate using the quipu. The third rule and the choice. As the gate stabilizes, Kale attempts to extract the crystalline axis of stability. Mia screams, realizing the last piece of the code. The code is a paradox. It is a defense system, but it only works if the user is willing to sacrifice control. Rule 3. Mastery requires release. Ultimate power is achieved only by refusing to wield it. Resolution. Aris uses the Aetherian defense system, the Sentinel drone he had partially reactivated earlier, to destabilize the area around Kale. Not to kill him, but to trigger a localized sundering. Kale and his team are instantly warped away to an unknown dimension. Epilogue. Aris and Mia stand before the Nexus gate. The code is safe. They can now enter the sanctuary, or they can seal the code away forever, preventing anyone else from repeating the Aetherians' mistake. They look at each other. Their understanding of reality fundamentally changed, and decide to make the most difficult choice, the Aetherian choice. They use the golden quipu not to enter, but to reseal the city of Xylos, becoming the true, silent guardians of the code of the Aetherians, vowing to study and understand its secrets from the outside, protecting humanity from a power it is not yet ready for.
The descent was unlike anything Aris had anticipated. The tunnel, polished to a mirror sheen, dropped straight down for what felt like an impossible distance. The rope they carried was quickly proven useless, swaying aimlessly in the dead air. "It's not just smooth, Aris," Mia called down, her voice echoing unnervingly. She was wearing the metallic boots they found tucked into a niche. Boots with thick, obsidian soles that seemed to cling to the shaft's walls. "The air is thick here, and I can feel a pull. Not gravity, exactly." Aris, wearing an identical pair of boots, gripped the magnetic sensor on his chest. "It's a localized gravimetric field, but it's artificially induced. The smooth surface isn't for decoration, Mia. It's a track." He pushed off the wall and found himself hovering for a moment, before the field caught him again, slowing his fall to a steady, controlled slide. They didn't use stairs or ropes. They manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe just to move from one level to another. The air grew warmer, and the faint cyan light from below intensified, bathing the shaft in an unworldly, soft illumination. After several minutes of gliding, the tunnel opened into a vast, silent space. They landed on a platform of the same jet-black stone, overlooking a cavern so immense it swallowed the light. Below them lay the city of Xylos. It was breathtaking.
Structures rose in spiraling, graceful curves, not built of blocks, but grown from glowing, translucent material that seemed to contain frozen light. The buildings pulsed with a slow, internal rhythm, like a sleeping, synthetic heart. There were no sharp angles, only perfect spheres, ellipses, and parabolas, the language of astrophysics made manifest. "It's not ruined," Mia whispered, pulling her shawl tighter despite the warmth. "It's dormant." They moved across the platform towards the nearest structure. There were no visible entrances. The structures were seamless, monolithic. "How do we get in?" Mia asked, running her gloved hand over the warm, crystalline surface of a wall. Aris pulled out the Harmonic Resonance Detector. It immediately went quiet, overwhelmed by the pervasive low-frequency hum of the city. He relied instead on his eyes. He noticed a pattern. Embedded in the translucent walls at waist height were small clusters of 3 glowing symbols, arranged in a specific isosceles triangle configuration. "You look at these," he pointed. "The transition points." Mia studied the arrangement. "They're not letters, they're geometric instructions. The top symbol is always bigger. The bottom 2 are linked by a faint cyan line." "A vector," Aris murmured. "A force direction." He remembered the golden quipu. He took it from Mia and held it up to the transition point. The knots on the quipu described ratios of length. Aris quickly estimated the distance between the 2 bottom symbols and found the ratio matched a specific sequence on the quipu. The knots defined proportions, Aris realized, placing his finger precisely at a point on the wall that completed a perfect larger equilateral triangle with the 3 existing symbols. He was completing the pattern described by the quipu. As his finger touched the spot, the wall did not open. It dematerialized. The section of the crystalline structure shimmered, turning to cyan dust, and dissipated, revealing a seamless doorway that led into the dark interior. Rule 1. Harmonic alignment is key. Movement is controlled by harmonic frequency and geometric position. "The code," Mia breathed, her face illuminated by the internal glow of the architecture. "It's not a password, it's an understanding of spatial geometry. We have to fulfill the rules of their physics to move." Chapter 3. The Silent Guardian. Inside the building, the air was still and cool. They found themselves in a cylindrical chamber filled with a soft, pulsing light. In the center, sitting on a plinth of black stone, was an object that made both of them stop dead. It was a machine, roughly human-sized, but built of interlocking ceramic plates and highly polished lenses, vaguely resembling a segmented insect or a silent, watchful owl. It was motionless, powered down, a deactivated Aetherian sentinel. "Don't touch it," Aris warned, his hand instinctively going for the obsolete stun gun holstered at his hip. Mia circled it slowly, her linguistic caution overriding her scientific fear. "It's complex, almost organic. Look at the plating. It's designed to regulate massive heat and energy fluctuations." As she spoke, the sentinel's head, a cluster of multifaceted lenses, slowly swiveled towards them with a faint mechanical hiss. A low, rhythmic sound began to emanate from its core. Not a threat, but a mechanical warning. Aris quickly set up a portable microphone and translated the sound through his HRD. It was a rhythmic pulse, a series of short and long bursts. "It's a form of binary code," Aris muttered, furiously jotting down the patterns. "A sequence. Wait, I recognize this. It's an early form of pre-internet data storage protocol." The sentinel's head stopped swiveling and settled on Aris. The rhythmic pulsing intensified. Aris finally read the translation. "Warning. Deviation detected. The axis must not be broken." "The axis," Mia repeated, looking around the pristine room. What is it warning us about? Suddenly, the Sentinel's internal light dimmed, and a short burst of energy crackled from one of its core vents. It had used its remaining power to issue the warning, and now it was falling dark again. Aris looked around the chamber. In each of the 4 cardinal directions, small translucent spheres were mounted on the walls. They glowed with an unnervingly stable, deep orange light. "Look at those spheres," Aris pointed. "They are the only things in this chamber not pulsing or glowing cyan. They are fixed, stable. They are holding something in place." He pulled out a small electromagnetic sensor. As he moved it towards the nearest sphere, the sensor needle swung wildly, indicating a massive, stable magnetic and energy field.
"That's it," Aris concluded, his voice heavy. "The Exis, the core stability system of the entire city. The Aetherians didn't just build a city, they built a pocket of stable reality. And that Sentinel is warning us not to disrupt the anchor points." Mia pointed to the ground beside the Sentinel. Scrawled into the dust of the black plinth was a set of symbols scratched out by what looked like the machine's own metallic fingers, a secondary, more urgent warning. Using the rules of geometry they had just learned, Mia interpreted the scratch marks. They weren't a warning against intruders, they were a plea for protection. Rule 2. The axis must be protected. Stability is maintained by a fixed energy matrix. They didn't abandon this place, Aris, Mia realized, her eyes wide with the revelation. They sealed it. They left this Sentinel to guard this axis. And the entire code is less about gaining power and more about preserving this fragile stability. Aris nodded grimly. "We're not archaeologists. We're standing in a massive, dormant reality engine, and we've just been warned that a single wrong move could shatter it, or worse, shatter us." He looked at the golden quipu in his hand. It wasn't a key to treasure. It was a manual of existence.
Aris and Mia, now acutely aware that the vast subterranean city of Xylos was less a museum and more a primed reality engine, moved with cautious purpose. They used the principles of harmonic alignment, Rule 1, described by the golden quipu, to navigate the silent crystalline corridors, completing geometric vectors to open the seamless transition points. The city's power source, a vast, slowly rotating energy sphere, visible through the translucent ceiling miles above, cast a diffuse cyan glow that both illuminated and concealed. They followed the strongest electromagnetic signature, realizing the city was broadcasting a low-frequency data stream. It led them to a vast spherical chamber, the central archive. The room was lined with thousands of crystalline spheres, each about the size of a human head, floating gently in individual magnetic fields. They weren't just storage units, they were pulsing with compressed, non-verbal data. Aris quickly set up a temporary interface, using the HRD's receiver unit to tap into the closest sphere. The data was not linguistic, it was pure visual, auditory, and sensory information, a full-spectrum holographic history of the Aetherian people. The Sundering. As the data flooded their console, the story of the Aetherians unfolded. They witnessed a civilization that had transcended resource scarcity, achieving mastery over the etheric fields, the dimensional energy derived from dark matter. They could fold space, manipulate gravity, and eventually construct the Nexus, a perfect stable pocket of existence designed to house their civilization eternally. Xylos was simply the guardian station, the dimensional anchor for the Nexus. But stagnation bred dissent. A powerful faction emerged, arguing that perfect stability was the end of evolution. They demanded chaos, uncontrolled exploration of the dimensions, and the ability to break the code to achieve true freedom. This internal conflict escalated into a scientific catastrophe, the Sundering. The data showed crystalline structures being ripped from their housing, causing catastrophic dimensional instability. The Aetherians didn't die,
They were violently fragmented, scattering their forms, minds, and technology across the continuum of time and space. The few remaining Aetherians sacrificed their physical presence, leaving behind the three fundamental rules, the Code, and the city of Xylos, programmed to guard the fixed anchor points, the Axis, Rule 2, until the Nexus could be stabilized again. Mia stared at the history, horrified. The Code isn't a roadmap to power. It's a warning label, a way to stop anyone from repeating the mistake. Aris nodded, his face grim. They created the perfect sanctuary and then destroyed themselves trying to gain control over the very rules that made it possible. We have to find the central stabilizing sequence, the full code, and ensure it stays here. Just as he spoke, the lights in the archive flickered. Not the internal pulse of the architecture, but the sudden sharp white glare of powerful modern halogen lamps. The third party. A voice cold and precise cut through the hum of the archives. Fascinating, isn't it, Aris? The moment you stop looking for money or fame, you stumble directly on to the key to everything. 4 figures in black tactical gear, armed with military-grade rifles, appeared at the transition point. Leading them was Dr. Elias Kale, Aris's former colleague, a man whose academic brilliance was only matched by his profound, chilling narcissism. Kale wore an expensive, custom-made environmental suit and carried a high-powered energy scanner. "Elias," Aris said, stepping in front of Mia. "How did you find us?" Kale smiled, a thin, predatory expression. "Your signature is terrible, my dear Aris. The moment your custom HRD tapped into the Wari site's harmonic frequency, I registered the anomaly. It's so easy to track the reckless pursuit of genius." Kale gestured to the sentinel they had passed earlier. "I see you've already found the welcoming committee. Pity you didn't heed its warning. My team located those crystalline spheres you were so keen on protecting. They're marvelous. Pure, contained etheric energy." Mia clutched the golden quipu tighter. "You don't understand the code, Kale. This city is balanced on a knife edge. Touch those crystals and you risk a collapse." Kale laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Collapsing this dimension? Precisely. But I won't collapse it. I will command it. You see, Aris, you look at their history and see a warning. I look at it and see an incomplete experiment. The Aetherians failed because they lacked the will to fully seize power." He held up a device, a highly sophisticated energy siphon, built to extract the power from the Axis crystals. "The golden quipu," Kale demanded, stepping closer. "Give it to me, Mia. It's the final sequence, the key that activates the central nexus. You open the front door, now you're going to open the treasury." A tactical retreat. Aris realized he had no choice. Kale had the tactical advantage and the element of surprise. He had to create a distraction. He reached into his pocket and activated a small modified device, a miniature version of his HRD, which he had tuned to the precise prime harmonic sequence of the entrance slab. It was a chaotic, high-amplitude burst designed to overload the city's delicate frequency control. A piercing, discordant shriek erupted from the device. The air vibrated violently. The translucent walls of the archive began to pulse erratically, switching from cyan to an angry, flashing red. The floating crystalline spheres of the archive began to spin wildly. "He's triggering a feedback loop," Kale roared, covering his ears. "Stop him!" As Kale's mercenaries advanced, Aris tackled Mia, pushing her toward a nearby transition point. He slapped the golden quipu against the wall and aligned the knots perfectly, and shouted, "Rule 1, geometric alignment, now!" The wall dematerialized as a doorway. They dove through just as Kale's men opened fire, their energy blasts harmlessly dissipating into the space where the crystalline wall had just been. They were now in a maintenance shaft, dark and dusty, far from the central archive. But as they landed, Mia looked back up. Kale was standing at the entrance, a smirk replacing his anger.
You can run, Aris, but I have the axis points in my sights, and you just taught me the first rule of the code. You are running by the rules of a civilization I am here to break. Aris looked at Mia. She was safe, but Kale now understood the fundamental mechanism of the city. The chase was on, and the stakes had just become the stability of their very reality.
Aris and Mia scrambled through the narrow maintenance shaft. The high-pitched shriek of Aris's harmonic overload device had subsided, but the residual effect was chaos. Lights throughout the section of xylos flashed red, and the floor periodically shifted as the localized gravimetric fields faltered. "Kale knows the first rule now," Mia gasped, struggling to keep pace. "He'll use the quipu's geometry to follow us faster than we can run." "He has to see the geometry first," Aris countered, sliding to a stop at a junction. "We're going deep into the etheric regulator cores, areas designed for pure energy flow, not traffic. The geometry here is fractal and constantly shifting. He won't be able to hold the pattern." They were now navigating a dizzying maze of smooth, curved tunnels, occasionally crossing enormous open shafts where columns of pulsing etheric energy shot upwards. They moved by constantly calculating the necessary harmonic alignment to activate the next transition point, racing against the low-frequency hum of Kale's remote scanners, attempting to lock on to them. "Aris, look!" Mia pointed to a series of etched symbols on the black stone. They weren't transition points. They were annotations, Aetherian script carved deeply into the regulator core walls. The original builders left these notes. They are discussing the limitations of the code. Mia translated the recurring visual glyphs. They depicted Aetherians attempting to command energy, only to have the energy resist or collapse. The accompanying text, interpreted through their understanding of Rule 1, geometry, and Rule 2, stability, detailed the problem. Control was the source of their weakness. The third rule, mastery requires release. As they entered a vast circular chamber, the immediate staging area for the Nexus Gate, the final central axiom of the Aetherian code was displayed across a massive glowing wall, etched into the very fabric of the city's power grid. The display showed a complex flowchart: power leading to control, control leading to fragmentation, the sundering, and fragmentation back to chaos. The only path out of the loop was represented by a symbol they hadn't seen before, the symbol of release, a hand opening, letting go of a captured energy orb. Mia finally deciphered the meaning of the central Aetherian message. Rule 3. Mastery requires release. The etheric field will only stabilize for the user who attempts to conserve it, not command it. Ultimate power is achieved only by refusing to wield it. The entire code is a paradox, Mia realized, running her hands over the glowing diagram. They created rules for power, but realized the only way to survive was through humility. They built the Nexus to be powered by those who vowed never to exploit it. Aris stared at the symbol, the truth hitting him with the force of a physical blow. He had spent his life chasing the ability to control the universe. Kale was here to weaponize it. But the Aetherians understood that true advancement meant stepping back. The final stand. The moment of realization was shattered by the sound of heavy footsteps. Kale and two remaining mercenaries burst into the chamber. Kale was holding the energy siphon, and attached to it were two of the orange-glowing crystalline axis points, ripped violently from the walls of Xylos. The chamber's light pulsed an aggressive warning red. "You're too late, Aris," Kale sneered, his eyes burning with fanaticism. "I have the anchor points. Now give me the quipu." Kale pointed toward the center of the chamber.
There, a vast vertical aperture, shimmering with every color imaginable, churned like a trapped nebula, the Nexus Gate. It was partially stabilized, but was struggling against the destabilization caused by the removal of the access points. "The gate is barely holding," Aris shouted. "Kale, you fool! You break Rule 2 and you fracture reality! Put the access points back!" "I am transcending the rules," Aris, Kale yelled back. He forced Mia toward the Nexus Gate. "Activate the final sequence, Mia. The quipu is a ceremonial key. It opens the path to the infinite resources of the Nexus." Mia, terrified but defiant, saw her chance. Kale was focused entirely on the gate. He understood Rule 1, geometry, but he was blind to Rule 3, release. "Kale, the code isn't a lock," she screamed, holding the golden quipu tight. "It's a fail-safe." She knew that the quipu was designed to bring the system to equilibrium. If Kale was trying to force the gate open using the unstable energy of the stolen access points, the quipu's final sequence would seek to balance that instability. As Kale raised his siphon, preparing to inject the access energy into the gate, Mia took a deep breath and quickly tied a single, precise knot at the base of the golden quipu, a final protective sequence described in the Aetherian archives as the Sunder Lock. The moment the knot tightened, the entire chamber exploded with white light. The light wasn't destructive, it was pure, directional, etheric energy. Mia's action didn't open the gate for Kale. It activated the city's ultimate final defense mechanism, based on Rule 3, release. The energy didn't target Kale's body, it targeted his control. A massive, silent field of energy slammed into Kale's siphon, causing the stolen access points to vibrate violently. Kale screamed, not in pain, but in sheer disbelief, as the etheric energy fought his will. The field twisted around him and his two men, localizing the instability he had created. The energy feedback loop grew until the spot where Kale stood became a churning miniature vortex of dimensional energy, a controlled, localized sundering. Kale, his mercenaries, and the sophisticated energy siphon were instantly gone, warped away to an unknown infinite dimension, leaving behind only the faintest scent of ozone and two empty sockets on the chamber walls where the access points had been. Silence returned to the massive chamber, save for the low, relieved hum of the Nexus Gate, which was now stabilizing. Aris and Mia stood alone, breathing hard. The Nexus Gate was fully open, a shimmering, inviting promise of a perfect, stable dimension. The stolen access points were gone, but the code had proven its final rule. It was self-regulating, designed to eliminate the threat of unchecked ambition. They had protected the code, not by fighting, but by understanding the Aetherians' final, humble command: do not master it. They looked into the serene, inviting light of the Nexus. They had the code of the Aetherians and the key to eternity. They could walk in, sealing themselves away from the world's chaos. Or they could fulfill the Aetherians' true final wish, to let the secrets sleep. Aris gently took the golden quipu from Mia's trembling hand. He walked to the center of the chamber, not toward the gate, but toward the central column that fed Xylos its immense power. He used the final sacrificial knot on the quipu not to access the Nexus, but to interface with the core programming of Xylos. He initiated the final sealing sequence, the code's ultimate conservation protocol. The Nexus Gate shimmered and began to slowly, irreversibly fade. The lights in Xylos dimmed to a final, permanent cyan. Aris and Mia used the last functioning transition point, climbing the smooth, gravimetrically aided shaft back to the Peruvian sunlight, leaving the code of the Aetherians safe once again in the silent, subterranean city of Xylos. They had become the true guardians of the lost civilization's ultimate secret, not a key to power, but a testament to restraint.